WWE fans, you need to admit this about Stone Cold Steve Austin. In this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to admit and why you need to admit it. Because as a kid who grew up during the Attitude Era, admittedly, I was a Rock fan. All right, I was the fan of the People's Champion. But I knew Steve Austin very well because that was his biggest rival, outside of Vince McMahon, of course, during that era. In fact, they headlined 3 WrestleManias. WrestleMania 15, WrestleMania 17, and WrestleMania 19. I love how they always kept it in that short period of time, 99, 01, 03. In fact, before Steve Austin returned to in-ring action in 2022 at WrestleMania 38, going up against Kevin Owens, his last match, his original retirement match, it was against The Rock at WrestleMania 19 in 2003. Seattle, of all places. Right? They did not go on last because Steve Austin had too much pressure on himself to deliver. He didn't want to stink up the joint, as he has put it in the past. Now, obviously, things changed. He came out of retirement for a very special occasion. Kevin Owens, a guy that he absolutely adores. In fact, he essentially blessed, or gave his blessing, I should say, for Kevin to use his finisher, his iconic stunner. He has praised him multiple times, putting him over. It was also WrestleMania 38. It was also in Dallas, Texas, his home state, AT&T Stadium. It had everything aligned. All the stars came together on one night, and in fact, Steve Austin didn't know if he was actually going to go through with it or not. In fact, the whole hype behind the match was, well, lackluster, if you will. For months, Kevin Owens called out the state of Texas, mocking it, downgrading it, just being a complete bully. And it wasn't until Steve Austin cut an epic promo out in the desert, telling Kevin Owens that he would confront him at WrestleMania. He did not want to put on the pressure of trying to get ready, both physically and mentally, in his 50s for one more match. He wanted to come back and he had a street fight, with the idea being, if he didn't feel it that night, they weren't going to do a full-on match. Well, he felt it that night, having a pretty good performance, although he did show his age in some areas. Now, the thing that WWE fans need to admit about Steve Austin is this. He's never wrestling again, okay? The man is 60 years old. He came out of retirement at WrestleMania 38 under special circumstances, his home state, against a guy that he absolutely adores. He could have done something at WrestleMania 39, reportedly had talks with WWE. He had obligations. He was filming a show for A&E. I think it aired one season. Okay, he was out on an RV going around the great United States. Okay, that's what he was doing instead of being at WrestleMania 39. Since then, he's really been into dune buggy racing out in Nevada, where he lives. And he has openly talked about how the fact that he doesn't like to travel anymore. Been there, done that, saw that, no more. He could have appeared at WrestleMania 40. In fact, they wanted him to get involved in the Roman Reigns-Cody Rhodes match. Night 2 of that event. You know the match. Rock got involved. John Cena got involved. The Bloodline got involved. It was The Undertaker who took Steve Austin's place in running down and taking out The Rock. Okay? He didn't want to fly to Philadelphia, even for a check, even for a WrestleMania 40 appearance. Didn't want to do it. Said no thank you. I'll stay home. Now, we have WrestleMania 41. It's going to be coming into Las Vegas. It's going to be in his backyard. People are thinking, oh, well, this makes sense. Steve Austin said that, hey, he's open to doing another match. Well, that was years ago. Well, he said he's open to making an appearance. Yeah, he said that earlier this year. Does that correlate with him wrestling a match? Does it correlate with him putting on his boots one more time? Putting the knee brace on? Putting the knee pads on? Taping up the wrists and going out there and putting on a full-blown match or a street fight? Outside of anything in which he does a stunner, I would count as a wrestling match. I would count as wrestling again. I don't see that happening. And I'll tell you why. There's multiple reasons behind it. Number one, his age. Number two, that despite all of the call-outs, despite all of the money, despite everything, it took only one man to convince him to come back. It took one man in Kevin Owens to do so because he adored him so much and he thought that that would help Kevin Owens. He did so at his home state of Texas in front of 100,000 people. Now, ask yourself this. If you take out the fact that he was in front of 100,000 people in his home state against a guy that he adores, only reason he came out of retirement to do another match, why do you think now, in Las Vegas, at 60 years old, that Steve Austin would come out of retirement for one more match? Why? I can't come up with an idea. I cannot come up with a name that would prevent him from staying in retirement, that would actually be able to pull him out of retirement one more time, to have him put on his knee pads, to put on the brace, to put on the boots one more time. I don't know a name. If you guys have a name down below, let me know. And I know what y'all are going to say. Y'all are going to go with the obvious. CM Punk. It's a match in which they teased in, 2013? Maybe. But I don't think so. I think if Steve Austin wanted to do that match, he would have done so when he was 10 years younger. He would have done so against CM Punk, who was also 10 years younger. He would have done so when Punk was WWE champion, when the infamous WWE 2K, or not 2K, but WWE 13 video game came out. Remember the infamous sit down with JR? That was the time to do it. But they didn't do it. Why? Steve Austin didn't want to. Why is it different now? Well, it's because he's 2 years removed from a match, so? What is the draw? What is the ability to get him out of retirement? It would be a massive match, no doubt. But I don't think it's happening. I really, really don't. And then you could say, well, you have obvious people like Roman Reigns. You have maybe a John Cena. I don't think so. And by the way, would you really want to see a 45, 46, 47-year-old John Cena versus a 60-year-old Steve Austin? I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to see that, right? Because you also run the risk, and I think this is also weighing on Steve Austin's mind, of you don't want to go out there and stink the joint out. You don't want to go out there and look like a has-been. You don't want to go out there and ruin your legacy. As good as there is with the idea of Steve Austin returning for one more match, as good as it was for him to do so at WrestleMania 38, he also rolled the dice of taking a chance of ruining his legacy or going out the wrong way. Because I thought his match with The Rock at WrestleMania 19 was actually pretty good. And I thought his street fight with Kevin Owens was good. As a guy that grew up watching Steve Austin going up against my guy in The Rock, I don't want to see Steve Austin wrestle again. Just let it be. WrestleMania 38, picture perfect, storybook. Leave it at that.